What's going on, everybody? Kasabe here today with some Create a Stadium tips. These are some tips that I've picked up along the way since launch about a month ago, and I wanted to share them with you guys, make your experience with Create a Stadium easier. So the first thing right off the bat that I didn't even realize was there and has kind of helped me within the last couple days is this grid feature. If you're on the main Stadium Hub menu like this, just hit the square button. These blue lines with the squares will appear. This can be really helpful for when you're trying to put similar pieces together in order and you want them to be lined up. So for example, if I wanted to take this little TV stand or whatever this is and make another one next to it, I can use the grids to line it up and make it kind of parallel to the other one. And then if you want to make like a line or like a square of the same items, there you go. Like these are all really good looking in terms of how well spaced together they are. So the grid feature can be really helpful in that regard for you. The next thing I want to go over is terraining. So we can see here that we have some grass hills that are already a part of this stadium, the tutorial stadium. What you can do with these pieces or anything really that's kind of similar is take certain props and form them together. And I'll show you what I mean here. So first we're going to add a prop that's similar to this one. So we're going to hit square, go to the landscaping menu, and let's get another dark grass thing here. Say you didn't want just the one hill here, say you wanted it to kind of extend a little bit off to the side. You can do that by placing some of these pieces together, spinning them around with the L2 and R2 buttons, and then just kind of forming them into each other like so. And now you're not really limited to the 7 or 8 different types of hills and mounds that they have. You can create something that is its own unique shape by putting these pieces together. Another thing I want to add regarding props is if you wanted to add something that's similar to something already on the field. So for example, if I wanted to add another scoreboard here, what you could do is whatever piece you were just on is going to be in the menu. So like I have the grass here from the last tip. Say you want to snap to something similar and kind of go off of the same sub menu of the props that you have. So if I wanted to add a scoreboard right next to this one that looks similar, what I'm going to do, a little cheat in the system, is select the prop, which is the scoreboard here, then deselect it, hit cancel. Now if you go to add prop, I was at the grass before and now I have that exact same scoreboard as before. Or if I just wanted to add a different scoreboard, I'm now in the scoreboards menu instead of where I was at with the hills. Place it right there. Let's try that again. Say I wanted to make another building next to this one. Well, if I hit add prop, I was just in the scoreboards menu, so it's going to remember that. But you can select this prop and hit cancel. Then if you go back to add prop once again, you're in the buildings menu. And I can just kind of Frankenstein this building together like so. That's another thing I like doing a lot is combining elements. I kind of went over it with the hills and terraining. You can also do that with buildings. If you get a building that's a rectangle shape like this and you want to make it into a plus, you can just form the two together. Or if you wanted to make it into an L-shaped building, you can do that too. If you place the two elements together right at the same time, they're going to be the same height and everything. Now this stadium was at 86% memory when I started. It's now up to 89% now that I've put a few things in here. And a lot of the questions I've been getting about the save memory is how much does each prop add to the save percentage? That's not really a very exact thing. It's kind of ambiguous. What I've learned is try and keep it simple with the amount of props that you have in your stadium. And there are certain props where you can have 100 of them and it'll add only a couple percent. But meanwhile, I've tried to add a different prop to my stadium that I didn't already have, and it's added about 6 to 8% all in one go just by adding one prop. The reason for this I found is if you combine different elements together. So for example, let me select the stands here. If I have a classic field stands and I want to add like a modern stands to it too, that's a whole nother subgroup that the stadium creator has to think about and place into the game when it's loading in your created stadium. If you keep things similar, or if you have like things together, it'll load faster. It'll have a lot less memory saved up towards your stadium. The less props that you can use, or the less amount of groups in the prop submenus that you can, that's going to help out flesh out your stadium a lot more in terms of the amount of stuff you can have in it. So I'll explain what I mean here. Again, I have the classic field level here. Let's say I wanted to add the minor league baseball stuff. So even if just I put down this end cap right here. Let's put it on the ground over here. My percentage just spiked from 89% all the way up to 97%. This little end cap right here shouldn't take up too much memory, you would think, but that's what I mean is just by having a bunch of different subgroups of props in your stadium, it just kind of takes a lot more for the stadium creator to load and think about when you go into load an online game or something like that. So I would very much recommend keeping things simple in terms of staying within the same subgroups, because you're going to open up a lot more avenues for how much your stadium can be fleshed out. On top of that, you want to know the scope of your stadium. I know people like to get very creative and add as much as they can to the stadium itself, but know your scope. When you're playing an online ranked game, there's only so much of the field that you're going to see based on the broadcast menus and cameras that are in the game. So for example, if I go back to home field level like here, I really can't see past that hill over in left center. Adding any props or elements past that hill, unless it's like a skyscraper or something, are going to be lost. And that's just a lot of memory that you don't really have to add in at all and you can use in other areas. So here's what I'd recommend at a minimum in terms of creating your stadium. You want something on all sides of your stadium surrounding the walls at the very least, and a lot of that's going to be taken up by stands. But other than that, what you really want is just for stuff to be down the left and right field foul poles, and then maybe something immediately behind your backstop in terms of scenery. The reason for that is if you're going into the broadcast game package and you hit a foul ball or like a no doubt home run or something, they're not going to zoom all the way up here to see all the way back to the depths of your created stadium. They're just going to show a few angles like over here and over here, maybe one behind home plate. So what you don't want is for there just to be a bunch of green space back here and just makes it look like your stadium's in the middle of a Minecraft world. What you want is just add a few things around the outside of the stands of the stadium, unless they go like way up into the sky like I mentioned. Those are really going to be the only parts that you're going to see. So you can, for your own satisfaction, go out here, add a concourse with little tables and everything, but it's behind the stadium walls. You're not going to see too much right here. I would recommend fleshing out as much of the stadium that you'll be able to see in the broadcast packages before you work on anything else and max out your memory. So again, know your scope and prioritize where you're going to build. Back behind the stadium, we have a parking lot here. One thing I've learned recently is that there aren't very many car props in the game. Really, all you have are some parking lots and parking garages. But what you can do is by selecting the parking lot and the height control button is you can sink this guy into the ground just enough where the pavement disappears, but you just have the cars. I've done this before in my county fair stadium. I've done it in my backyard baseball stadium. You can have cars out in an open field to make it look like you're at a county fair setting. Everybody's parking in the grass because there is no parking available in like a county area. Or if you have some cars, you can just place them like this on the roadways and use some other props to your advantage, such as using some grass or something and hiding the cars that you don't want. So if I just wanted this one car, for example, this red one right out in front here, I can disguise the other cars around it so all you see is this one. It can be very useful if you wanted to put like a car up on a pedestal, kind of like maybe what the Detroit Tigers have in their stadium. I really wish they'd add some car props here in the future so you don't have to do this, but if there's a certain element of a prop that you really like and you want to hide other aspects of it, like you want to highlight a specific part of that prop, just know that you can use other props to hide things to your advantage. The last thing I want to go over is the snap tool. And the snap tool can be really helpful when you're trying to put your stands together or certain props together where there isn't too much of a gap in between them. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And here are a few tips that I've learned with the snap tool itself and have really helped me kind of polish my stadium. So the one thing I've found with the stadium tool is that if you're saving over a certain stadium but you want to keep certain elements of that stadium and there's already props pre-built from the creators or whoever you've downloaded it with, sometimes when you try and use the snap tool, it isn't really always exact. So for example, if I tried to add some stands here to these side of the bleachers here and I hit the snap tool, it's going to have a lot of different things that it doesn't recognize because they've already been there previously. And it tries to take all of those into account and just kind of do like a best fit scenario, which it looks like this. Sometimes you might have to delete something and put it back, so to speak, before the snap tool actually recognizes correctly. So here's what I mean. In the Create a Stadium tutorial park, you have a bunch of the stands right here, and these are ones that were already pre-existing by whoever built the stadium at first. And if I tried to add something like these exact same stands that are already on the field by using the snap tool, I just clicked L3 here, and I'm going to move it around a bit. It doesn't recognize where to place something on the park. So if you're changing up a stadium that's already existing, or if there's a prop that's already on the field, you're going to have to kind of take a leap of faith and place something down first before the snap tool kind of knows where to go, so to speak. So I'm going to place these here, and now if I were to add another set of stands next to the one that I just placed, it should recognize that snap feature, and there we go. It can be quite annoying to do this if you're editing somebody else's stadium or if you're going off of a template, but you just want to change up a few things. Just do your best to line it up as best as possible on your own accord. Then you can delete these old ones and just put them right back. It's a little bit more tedious that way, a little bit of extra work, but that will get you the best polished stands or other props in your stadium by being able to place them yourself and having the snap tool recognize. It works for some props better than others. So for example, I just placed this roadway piece here a little bit ago, and these roadway pieces were already here originally. Sometimes they'll lock onto a piece like this street lamp. I want to put it between these two other ones, and there you go. I'm just going to show this again. Use the snap tool. So like I said, it works for different pieces better than others. The one that I found to be most difficult is the stands. And in that case, you can always go to the stadium hub here, go to stadium properties, and they have a bunch of templates here. If you're really struggling with seating, they have a bunch you can choose from. I just changed it to an MLB park right here. It'll tell you how many fans there are too. Just know if you're doing one of these templates, it will kind of save over everything that you had on the field previously. I would do the stands first before doing anything else in your created stadium. Like before you add any other props, lights, flags, concession stands, anything like that, make sure your stands are set in place first. That is the beast of the stadium creator, and it's a lot more hard to fine-tune as opposed to everything else. That's going to do it for my first edition of the Stadium Creator tip video. If there's anything else that you'd like for me to explore or go over from my previous stadiums, anything that you're curious about, feel free to let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to make more tip videos like this. This is all just stuff that's off the top of my head and what I've experienced with Stadium Creator thus far, but if you guys have more specialized questions, I'd be happy to help out from there. Or if you'd like me to take a stab at creating a stadium for you, I do create stadiums by commission. I have the link for that with a Google form underneath the description of this video. I've made some pretty cool stadiums. Here's a couple of them showing on the screen right now. Thanks for watching this video. Hope it helped you out a little bit, and I will see you in the next one.